2, 1. So today I am with Amr Abu Hamaidan. He is the co-founder and CEO of Asafir, which is an Arabic literacy company. Platform. Okay.
Yeah.
And which is basically the Netflix of Arabic books.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, for
Okay.
school. Yes.
For school books. So why don't you tell me a little about yourself?
My name is Amr Abu Hamaidan. I'm an entrepreneur, parent of two very curious, very active kids,
That's good.
and an optimist who believes in technology and its role in spreading knowledge.
Okay.
I've been working in the technology sector for the past 14 years. After a while of working, I decided I want to do my own thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, what's your educational background?
My educational background, I have a bachelor's degree in computer information systems.
Okay, interesting.
From public university in Jordan, University of Jordan. But I feel like biggest education is practical work you do, whether it's related to your field or any other work. I've been working since I was 12.
Wow.
And I feel that's a big part of why I can do lots of things within my day, because I'm very used to spending long hours working.
Okay. So, like you said, you've been working since you were 12.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard this a lot, that the entrepreneurial spirit
Mm-hmm.
is you either have it or you don't. Some people aren't cut out for it, and some people are. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like you can train people to be more entrepreneurial. It's not that something that you're born with. But your experiences would shape the way you think about the world.
Okay.
And if you think about it, I feel today it's a very important skill. It's not like a cool thing to do, because it's very hard.
Yeah.
But it's very important to do, because people before, like a couple of centuries ago, they used to work because jobs brought security with it, right? Decades ago, jobs brought security with it. I mean, today, like within my own career, I've been into companies that just stopped existing within a couple of years. So it's not. It doesn't bring any additional value now.
Yeah, I mean, I see how before you could just get a job as soon as you get out of university or college, and get the mortgage on your house, get a loan on your car,
and stay in a job for 20 years.
Yeah, and just stay there
years.
as long as you want.
Yeah.
But do you think that's not the best option now?
I feel like in the future, this will not be the scenario.
Yeah.
If you look at it today, you can ask people who are working today, many of them have been out of jobs, have been switching jobs in a couple of years. Businesses are going out of business, companies going out of business. So yeah, I don't think it's a dependable option anymore. So whatever gave having a job a competitive advantage, or maybe more value to some people, is not there anymore.
That's true. I mean, I can see how that...
So it's just the easy choice, which is what human beings are really good at, making easy choices. That's the reality, right? Like when it comes to eating healthy, working out, we all know that is important.
Yeah.
But then not all of us do it.
Yeah.
Because we human beings would like to take easy choices in general.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I do have a question about that, but we can circle back. So my first thought is, okay, you're saying more people should try to get into the entrepreneurial world, but not everyone can be entrepreneurs, and there has to be some people who just follow the straightened path of getting their job and sticking to it, right?
Yeah.
Because then you wouldn't have employees.
Yes, definitely. So
how does that add to the mix? Does it go back to the fact that some people just take the easy way out? Is that?
it's not just taking the easy way out. Some people don't have the stomach to do it, right? Because it's very hard to start a business.
Yeah.
A big business is very hard. But still, you can do freelance work. You can do these. Right now, a big part of the economy is turning into a gig economy, where you do Uber in the evening when you feel like it, and then you're a task rabbit somewhere else, and then you do some freelance illustrations, and maybe you work for 2 hours at some local coffee shop, whatever it is, or like a boutique. So you can do different jobs during the day, and you can quit anytime you want. Businesses are becoming more flexible in terms of employment, right? Especially that with the basic education that we have today, you're empowered to do lots of simple tasks.
Yeah.
You're capable of doing it just straight out of school.
Yeah.
You can do it. It's not that challenging. So that's why I think there will still be jobs, but I don't think it will be the same, where you have to work for 30 years to add value in a company. It will be more flexible.
That's true. I mean, I see what you're saying, but let's move away from that for now. What I do want to know is about your company, because I already know everything there is to know about Asafir, but let's talk about it for the viewers.
Okay.
So when did you start it? Like, when did you decide to start it? Why did you decide to start it? You know, just like the basics, because it's very interesting. Because you started in the traditional way of going to university, getting your degree, and then you went to several different jobs, and you stayed there, and then you went out of your comfort zone, and you started this company. So,
okay, so I don't think that I was very like brave and daring, and I decided to go into outside of my comfort zone to do it. But I started doing something that I care about. So I'll try to go back a bit to give some context.
Perfect.
To this. So when I finished school, I always enjoyed the arts, drawing, painting, these kind of things. And when I finished high school, I wanted to study fine arts, but my parents didn't like it. So my father is a surgeon, my mother is a doctor. I come from a family who are mostly doctors. Maybe there's 1 or 2 engineers. So they felt like this is not the right thing to do, right? And my father used to be in the military, so he used to see things in black and white at that time.
Yeah, okay.
And when I wanted to fill in the application form for the university, there was a lot of struggle with my father to like what I wanted to choose.
That's tough.
And then I went and started asking my friends, like, what do you think, and people around me. And everybody said, like, you can't take art. Art wouldn't feed you. Like, just take something close. Maybe you can take IT, and then you can circle back to media and digital media and all of that. And it made sense to me at that point. So I thought, okay, maybe that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I went into IT, and I studied programming, and I thought, like, I'll get back to digital media. And then 13 years later, I found myself, I've been working in programming projects that are not related to media, or not as closely as I wanted them to be related. And I felt that maybe now I need to start doing something that I truly enjoy, because there's a certain point in your life when you start feeling that money is not as important as you used to think it is. Now it's very important, but it can't bring you happiness. And after a certain like income, it doesn't make any difference even. It would be very minuscule in terms of how it affects your happiness.
Yeah.
Or misery. So anyway, I decided to start doing something on the side. I didn't feel fulfilled in my job. During my job, I've started a couple of small businesses within the companies I worked with, or maybe business streams there. And then change of management would happen, and the new manager would think that let's scrap this, we'll focus somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that made me feel very better about it. So I decided to start doing my own thing on the side. And when I did it, it actually rose of a personal need. So I have these two kids growing up. I discovered the importance of reading later in life. So what happened is I had this trauma sometime in my mid-20s. I was sick for a while, and then it forced me to re-examine the way I used to live my life. So I wasn't that organized, or never took good care of my health. I didn't read as a habit. And then this thing happened, and it made me just stop, examine everything I was doing, and start readjusting my life in a new way.
Okay.
So I started reading, and I saw how transformational it is, how it could change your life. And when my kids were born, my first son was born, it made me think that this is very important. I need to teach it to him very early. So since they were like toddlers, young kids, infants, I used to read for them.
Yeah.
And then they're enjoying reading. Now my son is 8 years old, my daughter is 6, and they both enjoy reading a lot. But when they started reading, we couldn't find anything in Arabic for them, and I wanted them to read in their mother tongue. So, and I never found anything interesting for them. Like, there are very few books, and they're not that interesting. So I decided to...
But they don't have, like, translated to Arabic text?
So they have translated, but it doesn't feel the same.
Okay.
It doesn't feel the same. You cannot
So
relate to it
doesn't
the
really
same
have
way.
the depth that the English literature has, but it, like, in its original form.
In some sense, yes. Yes.
So it
So
loses
maybe-
something in translation.
Yeah, something is lost in translation. Plus, when you're reading something in your mother tongue and it's something that is culturally fit, I'm not talking about like having abayas and that kind of stuff, but there's lots of things that are out of context in our culture. Like, my kids wouldn't even grasp it because they don't experience it.
Yeah.
And it's a very important part of a culture. I started realizing how important it is to actually have thoughts discussed, stories told in your own mother tongue. Because if you don't, then you have a much basic understanding of these thoughts and these stories.
Okay.
So I started doing this on the side, and I was illustrating some stories, writing them, even reading them, the voiceover.
Do you have illustration background as well?
So my
Or is it something you learned?
Yeah, so my first job was I used to draw these cartoon characters, and like Xerox machines were a very new invention back then.
Okay.
So, and they were only there in like bookshops. So I used to do illustrate these cartoon characters, and I'll sell them for like 5 piastres in school. And I'll come back home with like 2 or 3 JDs, which was a lot of money at that time, right? Every day. So that was my first job, and I really enjoyed drawing since I was a kid.
Okay.
So, but I wasn't like that. I'm still not that good professionally at it.
Yeah,
right? But when you do something, so you have the story you tell with love, with an idea that you believe in, that is very positive. It's very different than listen to your mom and dad, sleep early, don't try new things. These kind of Arabic stories that
like
are
that really strong moral in the story.
Yeah. So not having that also was very attractive for kids.
Yeah.
Like having a moral, but not in a very
not in an obvious
straightforward, direct, preachy way.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what separates a great movie from really bad movies.
Yes.
Like, the director shows you something that you could miss if you don't pay attention, but he doesn't shove it in your face.
Yeah.
And that's the point you're trying to make, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a subtle moral.
Yes. So with kids, it's less subtle, but still, it's
Of
not
course.
that direct.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and I was doing it on the side. So I made this very simple website, and I started putting these stories on. And I was like doing every 2 months, I was doing one story. And then I started this Facebook page. One friend of mine was talking to me, and he said like, listen, like you're telling kids about discipline, and then they are like about other things in life, and then they see their parents, and it's totally different. Reality is different from the stories, and maybe that's not a good thing for kids. And I started thinking about it, and I thought maybe we should create content also for parents. So we started having these small blog articles based on research about positive parenting, about parenting in general, like techniques for parenting, that parents found very interesting. And we started having this Facebook page where every week we'll put some information about a story we're working on, a blog post about parenting, and like content information.
So where's this on the timeline? You're still working, and this is still your side job at that point.
So I was working from 8 till 3:30.
Okay.
And then from 3:30 till 10 I'll stay in the office, and I'll start working on my own thing.
All right.
Until they started thinking it's not appropriate to stay in the office till 10. So I started looking for other places to work. But for a long time, I spent like 2 years doing this every day.
Wow.
Yeah. And 2 years is not a long time.
No,
but yeah, like having a job and then working after work. Yes, I did that for a while. And then like in the first 6 months of having this Facebook page, it actually grew to like 250,000 followers in 6 months. So there was a demand for that kind of information. So we started putting more effort, more focus on it. I started commissioning artists to do it. And when I started, I knew a couple of very good voiceover actors that used to do cartoons when we were younger.
Okay.
And I put my mind into convincing them to work with us. And I felt like it's going to be very hard to convince them. But then when I started, it was like very easy. It's like we started working on it. Like sometimes you have to try things to really understand the difficulty, or like what kind of work goes into making it.
Yeah.
I was doing all of that. I had the parents in mind. And then I felt like I'm spending a good portion of my salary into this. And I felt like this is not sustainable. I need to maybe make an NGO and then start looking for a funding party to fund this work. And I started talking to people like social responsibility programs at big companies, and most of them didn't understand digital. And like after very long conversation, they'll span over 6-7 months, they'll come back and say, listen, feel more comfortable building a park or a school or a playground. I don't understand like how many copies this will be creating, all these things. And at that point we had very good number, like we had hundreds of thousands of views and reads, like in the very early times, and then later on became millions, and still they were not getting it.
So you were limited by the people that lacked understanding of how the digital...
It's not a limitation. It's just that I understood that this is not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, because these people lacked like the knowledge to understand or comprehend that how the digital world works, and they wanted to do something straightforward that was easy, rather than...
I wouldn't put it that way. Maybe I wasn't a good enough salesman to sell the idea, right? But what I understood from that is that this is not the way to go. It's too much work, and you will have to do it over and over and over again. And it feels like begging for money, right? And I didn't like the feeling. That's all it was. I didn't feel limited by them, or they were not like very lazy people. I couldn't sell the idea to them. That's all. And then we started getting feedback from teachers who were using it in the classroom, which was very interesting. But still, I wasn't smart enough to directly jump on it and start working with teachers. So I was discussing it with my wife, who's also my co-founder. And she said, let's print. And we used to get also lots of requests of like, do you have these books in print? Because we had them on the website.
Yeah.
And at a point in time, I decided to have an app. And like I just started learning Objective-C and Java to do the apps, like, and Java for Android. And I did them.
So you learned that by yourself?
Yes. So see, as a programmer, it becomes just a matter of time to learn a new language, because you understand all the basic concepts. You just have to understand the different grammar, let's say syntax. Yes. So it's not that challenging. But then we started going after print. We printed like 5,000 copies. I still have them in the storage, which was also another very important lesson.
Yeah.
So we started with maybe it's an NGO.
So
then
you didn't sell any?
No, we sold some. We sold a couple of hundreds, maybe a couple of thousands, because we did a couple of prints also. So it wasn't just the 5,000.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not a sustainable business model.
Yeah.
So a big challenge was that distributors were very limited in their reach. So you'll have distributors who will maybe distribute to 6 or 7 bookshops. And most of the books are not sold in bookshops, by the way. In this part of the world, books are sold in school book fairs that happen at schools.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is not a sustainable business model. So they used to take the books for like a year and then come back saying we sold maybe 60% of the books. Here is the remaining 40%, and they're like maybe yellow from the sun, torn. You couldn't do anything with them at that point.
So you realized like digital is the way to go.
At that point, I understood that going with distributors is not the way to go.
Okay.
And then we tried to monetize the followers that we had on Facebook, which were at that point maybe were 500,000 followers. So we thought maybe we can sell them directly. They can buy it online. But also the cost of acquisition for over Facebook, social media targeting, was not that low. So it didn't make a lot of sense. At that point, I thought maybe I need to check the teachers who are having all of that feedback, like asking for a certain font, certain way of presenting it, all of these things. And I started working with them, talking to them. I built a very simple platform, and I gave it to them for a year for free. And in the beginning, they used to come back and say, like, I don't understand how to use it. I can't see how it's usable in the classroom, or how to use it, how to utilize it. And bit by bit, we started understanding the scenarios of like how things happen in the school, and we built the platform in that direction. And within now we've been operating with a business license for the past 3.5 years. This year we've nearly done $1 million in sales. So
that's great.
And we're still growing, right? We're still learning. We're still finessing what we are doing. But I feel now we can go and scale on our own, because the beginning was very hard because we bootstrapped also. So we didn't raise any investment. I did it out of my own pocket. I got some small amounts of money from family and friends, and built the business with it.
That's great. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a very nice sort of story of how all these different things came together and how it sort of rippled into you like sustaining your profitable business. Now, my question is there anything you want to say regarding bootstrapping or finding investment?
So I feel like whenever you want to start a business,
Yeah.
a very, very, very important thing to keep in mind is it always takes longer than you think. In the beginning, I remember that roller coaster ride of like, now we're gonna make it, and then the disappointment of we're not gonna make it for maybe another year. And then you keep pushing. It was very frustrating. It was, I feel like people who don't have the stomach usually stop at that point. When you try once, you try twice, and then still not working,
So like
you
at
just
the
give up.
6 month to 1 year line around there.
See, every business is different. Like content business, it takes a lot of time to even make any sale, right? Some other businesses you can get started maybe in 6 months. But the thing is, for it to feel like you're gonna succeed, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because sometimes you could put a lot of effort, lots of marketing, lots of work, and then sell 10 items in a month, and then that doesn't make any sense. It's not a business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but still you need to
So just like
try
seeing the end of the horizon, so to say, like seeing that space where you are actually going to be successful, like seeing that it's your business is rising.
So every day there's a challenge, so you cannot guarantee that you'll be successful
Of course,
even
like,
next year, right?
You can see that you might be accelerating.
You can, yeah. So you have some measurable feedback.
So would you say that's the hardest part, like trying to sustain yourself or be committed until you reach that point where you think you're making?
That's a very big part of it. I feel like if you learn to manage your emotions in the beginning and you keep saying that you want to keep going until it works, then it will work. But that's a very, very hard thing to do. It's just very easy to say, but the reality of it is much harder to
Of course.
do.
I have one question. Is it important to do what you love?
Yes, definitely. I feel that the older you get, the more you realize that life is hard. There's always a challenge.
Yeah.
So unless you're enjoying what you're doing, it becomes very depressing, very fast. And don't get me wrong, I feel like lots of people think that I love partying, I want to make a business out of it. I don't feel like this is the kind of thing that, like, do what you love, right?
Yeah.
Like, find something that has, at least that's my opinion, find something that you think would have an impact, a good impact on people's lives, and that you enjoy doing, and then go for it. But you need to stick to it, and there's a lot of mundane parts in between.
Yeah,
right? So it's not like the whole day in between flowers and like I'm enjoying everything. There's a lot of hard bits. Yeah, there's a lot of hard bits of the day where you're doing very boring stuff, but you have to do it in order to achieve your goal. Yeah, but I believe in doing what you love, 100%.
So my next question was going to be, are you doing what you love? But I think we know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So what's the most mundane thing you have to do?
There's a lot of mundane things I do.
Like what? Sending emails?
Like sending emails still has some creativity aspect to
Okay.
it. Sometimes it's like, so we do this translation within the platform. It will translate names on its own. But in order to do that, you need to translate names every once in a while, manually. So you will go on a 4-hour streak of translating 1,500 names, right?
So Tom, the Tom, and Bob, the Bob.
Yeah, everything, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It takes hours of mind-numbing work.
I've never even heard of that sort of thing.
Mm.
I get
So that's one simple example, right?
That's very specific to your business.
Yeah, but it's a very simple example. There's a lot of mundane stuff that you do, like following up on payment.
Yeah. Oh.
Right?
Gosh.
Like you do sales, do you think people will pay you immediately? most of the people you'll keep running after to get your money.
Yeah.
So to do that, there's a lot of mundane work that goes into there, like filling forms, calling, these kind of things.
Yeah. But in the end, it's always rewarding.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If it goes with the goal that you want to reach.
So, I'm gonna try to segue in as smooth as I can. Do you think higher level degrees are as important as they were back in the day nowadays?
I don't feel any sort of education, like certificate, would actually make you more capable to live life. I feel like whatever piece of information or knowledge you can acquire through online courses. There's a lot of really good online courses.
Definitely.
And practical experience. But like dealing with people, they don't teach you that in university. Like how to deal with co-workers, how to deal with team members, and this is the most challenging part of the business, by the way. It's not, so one thing is learning, I feel is very important, learning to think clearly. Yeah. Many people miss that aspect, is learning to think clearly, analyze your steps, and be mindful of how you go through your day, whether you're talking to your customers, your team members. But that's my opinion. Many people still believe in higher degrees.
Yeah, of course.
I feel you should always be learning.
Yeah.
And I feel the current education system puts a lot of very talented people in the wrong position.
Cookie cutters, basically.
Cookie
it makes
cutter
everyone who is actually has potential to be unique and do things their own way. I feel like, in my opinion, it kind of strips you of your uniqueness and kind of ruins the creativity that you have. At least that's how I felt it was for me.
So I would say it does that in two different ways. One is that if everybody has to learn the same things, some things are more hard to grasp for some people, while other things are not as challenging. So you end up spending 90% of your time either not interested or not grasping what you are trying to learn.
That's true.
While I feel like the most productive thing to do is to stay in a constant state of being challenged and being interested and engaged, which I think is what is wrong today with the education system, is that since you have to go through all the same topics with everyone else, many times you wouldn't be as challenged, and then you will start losing interest, and many times you would feel lost because you don't understand anything about a certain topic.
If you don't understand something as well as the other people, you're still going with the general pace of the whole entire class.
Yes.
And you can be left behind.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how it kind of was for me in my middle school, high school, actually. Because there were some courses that I wasn't really that able to grasp as easily as I was to grasp other courses.
I see it with my kids. So a big challenge that I see with my kids is that they're not interested. And today the teacher decides or the curriculum decides we need to learn about countries or about diet or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I feel like education needs to be driven by the learner's interest right now, right? Like whenever I talk to my son, whenever he asks a question, I zoom into it and we start looking for more information about it and how it relates to other things and what's the context, what's the history, and he's very, very receptive at that point because he had the interest, he had the question, he had the curiosity.
Yeah, so you zoom in on the root of his question or his interest, and then you sort of build around that.
Yes.
And now the idea of this topic has come originally from him, so he's actually interested in learning more.
Exactly. And we keep expanding until I feel like he either lost interest or it became too much for him to grasp at this point.
Yeah, because you keep branching out.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually really interesting. The thing is, obviously I don't know the correct answer, but I feel modern education isn't really as modern as the general public thinks, because all the points that we already touched on. I feel like a better way to go about teaching youth is, like you said, find out what they're interested in individually, because supposedly, from what I've read before, there are 8 intelligences: math and arts and musical and all these different things, and you're trying to compress a bunch of different people that have different ways of thinking and make them study the same thing. And then that generalization, that standardization, actually just ruins the whole point of education.
Yes, definitely. So the root of the current education system comes from the Industrial Revolution. You needed to have workers who
You
are
need
able
to
to do
have
certain
just
tasks.
people.
To do things, and bit by bit today it's losing its meaning, because whatever you can do in a linear manner, you can program a machine to do in a linear manner.
So we don't need those anymore. We
Yes.
need people for the creative fields.
Yes, exactly.
And education is currently circled around the linear tasks, as you saw.
Yeah, but see, there's also change. I was talking to my wife a couple of days before about this, and she was telling me, you feel like it's still the same, but I'm looking at my kids' education in a couple of years, 3 years, I can see that there's a difference in the way they're looking at things. And it's becoming more engaging, more practical. But I feel still there needs to be a bigger disruption to the way education is delivered.
Yeah.
But it's very hard because people don't like experimenting with their kids. Right?
Yeah.
Because whenever you're doing something new, people have this bad feeling, like they feel like their kids are gonna miss out because we're experimenting with them, right?
Yeah. So I can see how that would be a problem.
Unless you truly understand how screwed up the education system is, you wouldn't want to experiment with your kids. Right? And that's what majority of the people don't share an opinion about.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, that's one way that I could understand why it moves slower. But then again, I can also see why my perspective might not be as valid, because I'm looking at it from when I was in school,
yes,
which was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, okay, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger?
There's a lot of things hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah.
You can only make sense of things looking back. You can't do that looking forward. It's very hard to do it looking forward. But then what I would say is keep looking for like a bigger purpose. Don't commit yourself to any big things with really big repercussions earlier in life. Like I see a lot of, like, I got married very early. I got lucky, right? But I feel like it could have gone very wrong, right? And I would have no control over it, right? And I see a lot of other people doing the same mistake, right? So I feel like this is one of the things, like, keep experimenting, experiencing life as long as you're young and looking for a purpose. And once you find that purpose, then you start making more and more commitments to get you closer to that purpose.
That is very insightful. I mean, because obviously when you're younger, you don't actually know what that purpose is. But if you sort of make a purpose that you feel strongly about at that point, you can slowly build on it. And who knows, it could completely tangent away from your original idea, but still it helps you find what you actually want if you have like these little sort of side missions on the side.
Yeah, I'll tell you one example of a person that really affected me, a teacher that really affected me early in school. So I had this English teacher who studied medicine, but then after studying medicine, didn't feel his heart was there. So he studied English literature, and then he started being a school teacher, an English teacher. And this guy was very amazing at what he did, right? That he got most of the class interested. And I feel like because he didn't feel like he was committed since he studied 7 years and he did medicine, that he has to get stuck with it for the rest of his life. He just didn't feel like it was a commitment.
He made that decision. Mm-hmm. So I, in my opinion, I feel like there's two things at play here. Because he went to medicine, he had one route that he could have taken. Mm-hmm. Maybe he wanted to, I don't know, maybe he wanted to become a teacher of literature before. Mm-hmm. But I feel like maybe it's possible that if he didn't try doing medicine and realize he didn't want to do that, he might not have been as happy in literature. Because he would still have that doubt in his mind.
Yeah, maybe.
And then, on the other hand, because he decided to leave, he has something that he actually likes. And that decision is making him happy because he's doing something that he feels passionate about.
Yeah, my lesson out of it was that even when he spent 7 years studying medicine, he didn't feel like he
didn't
should
feel
be
the pressure
committed.
to be committed.
To do it if he didn't feel his heart was into it.
So, your conclusion out of that, would you say no matter how much work you put into something, you shouldn't feel committed if your heart isn't in it? You should do what you want to do. Do what your heart wants.
Yes. Put the effort first. Okay. Because many people get this out of context. Right?
Yeah. Because then it sounds like just quit everything.
Yeah. but that's not the...
Just always give up.
No, that's not the moral of the story. Like, you need to stick to things and make sure that you've put the right amount of effort, that you applied yourself. Yeah. And then after that, you make the decision.
That's a very dangerous anecdote.
Yeah, it is.
But hopefully no one misconstrues it. Is it important to have a mentor?
Yeah, I feel like you need to keep learning. And there's a lot of heartaches and pains that you can avoid by listening to advice. But it's also to understand the context of having a mentor. A mentor doesn't mean like this person on his high horse who's been through life, who can tell you everything, who knows how to do everything, because we're all still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Everybody I've met, like no matter how accomplished they are, everybody's still trying to figure it out. And many of them, like the higher you see people rise, the less sure they are of what made them reach where they are, or like there's a sure way to get there. Right?
Yeah.
So I learn from everyone around me. Like I learn from people I work with. I learn from my kids. I learn from my friends. I learn from definitely from people who've been there, who've done it before me. And sometimes it depends on the person's nature. Because like for me, I'm a stubborn person by nature, right? Like I feel like I really need to experience things myself to understand. Many people are not like that. So for a stubborn person, I don't think I get the value of having mentors as much as other people, right? I try to keep myself tuned with whatever other people tell me, but I find myself being very skeptical to my own
beliefs rather than what other people think, because I think from your point of view you see it as this person has a completely different life than me. He doesn't know this side or what I'm doing in my life.
That's one thing, but I learned to
shut that off
early on, because I found that everyone thinks that he's very unique in his own way, right? But to tell the truth, the more I go through life, I feel like you're unique, you're still unique. But the thing is, these rules of thumb, they actually work.
Yeah.
They're there for a reason,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, they're cliches for a reason.
Yeah, they're there for a reason because
Yeah.
they work.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you wouldn't say you have like one person you look up to and like who gives you advice or whatnot, but you try to like learn from everyone and not be the smartest guy in the room.
Yes, I never had that feeling that I was the smartest guy in the room. I actually have very
You're so humble.
no, I have very smart siblings.
Okay.
And in my education, I was very lucky. I went to a school that is for talented, gifted kids. So you have to apply for an IQ test to get into that school. So I can guarantee that I was never the smartest guy in the room. I can guarantee that. Like I had very smart parents with very good education. I have very smart siblings. But what I also know that I'm a very disciplined person. I learned to be disciplined later in life, but I know that practice beats talent every time.
Yeah.
So whenever I feel that I'm disadvantaged, it's actually more fuel to my fire. It pushes me to work harder, to be more focused. When the odds are stacked against me, it's actually the best situation for me to work.
Yeah.
Like if I feel like I'm on top of everything, I start screwing up. I start like going later to meetings or not doing things perfectly, right? I feel like I need to be disadvantaged to be motivated.
I think you mentioned to me before when we were talking a while ago. You mentioned how you have this one friend you go to like humble you.
To humble me?
Yeah.
I have lots of friends who make me feel like I'm dumb. I'm very dumb. Yeah, I'm not that smart. I actually like when I talk to them. Sometimes I feel really bad about myself. I need some time to recover from that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. So, do you think it's important to be humbled?
It's important to be humbled. No, I feel like some people are very smart and they need to realize that and then use it. But at the same time, no matter how smart you are, people can beat you easily.
Yeah.
With the right attitude. I think it was Ford who said once that maybe I don't know how to do a certain thing, but I know the right person who knows how to do it, and I know how to get him to do it, right? So many people would be able to beat you even if they don't have the smarts, if they have the discipline and the right attitude.
Yeah.
It's all about attitude.
So, one thing I wanted to ask you, and I want to ask like all the people, all my guests, what sort of lifestyle or daily routine do you try to adapt, or do you have already?
So basically, I feel like a very important part is to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
So the more responsibilities you have, the more people will be vying for your time and your attention, right? They want it. So I wake up very early in the morning. I wake up at 5. Maybe it's not very early. I wake up early in the morning.
Yeah.
So I wake up at 5.
That's pretty early.
And I used to go for a 10K run every day.
Wow.
And then I'll go to the gym, and then I'll take a shower, and then I'll go to work. And I'll have 2 off days during the week. I'll go and I'll read for like 4 or 5 hours at a stretch. Recently, I've been waking up early, but I'll wake up my kids. I feel like I have a very strong system right now that I can deal with having other people taking a bit of my attention.
Yeah. So you've reached that point where you have like the discipline and the time to like, because you like you said, you buckled your seatbelt already. Mm-hmm. Now you're starting to help other people.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So like recently my son's teachers were telling me that his attitude is at school, right? It's very bad. And they keep saying like he's very smart, he's very knowledgeable, but he doesn't have the discipline.
Okay.
So I gave him a chance. I talked to him and I told him like, Dad, you need to apply yourself. He's 8 years old. But I feel like these lessons you need to teach them early on so they would have a profound impact on their life.
Yeah.
Right? The later you discover these things, like it's never too late, right?
Yeah.
It will definitely make a dent. But the earlier you learn these things and you can internalize it, you can put it in context, then the more impact it would have on your life. So I thought now I have to put a good focus of like a big portion of my focus into helping them understand that, my kids, my son especially. Yeah. So I wake up at 5, I take them for a run. The first week was very challenging because my son kept complaining about his feet hurting, about being cold, wanting to go to the bathroom. And after a while he realized that there is no way he's going to avoid it. Then now it's very enjoyable for him. He's enjoying these runs. So yeah, that's part of it. And then I go to work. In the morning I try to finish the communications with my clients, with my employees, people who work with me. And in the evening I'll do a bit of programming, I'll do a bit of planning for the next day, and then I leave the office at 10. At that point I'll go home, I'll sit with my wife for an hour, and then I'll go to sleep. And I do 6 work days, but on a Friday I don't touch my phone. I don't. It's family time.
So you just completely block out like the communication with work and everything.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
good.
And even when I go back home,
so that gives you that balance of family, work, and
So balance word is not a word I would choose. I would say that it's not balance, but it's what keeps me going. Right, it's what I feel is good for me. Right? Yeah. So many people would think that working till 10 is not a balanced lifestyle, right? But I feel like this is what works for me. Like I'm spending 2 hours every morning with my kids. I wake up at 5. I stay with them till 7 till I send them off to school, and I feel like many parents don't spend as much focused time with their kids, right? Because when I'm spending these 2 hours, we're actually communicating, we're doing things together, we're talking, we're having fun, right? So it's not like we're sitting in proximity and watching
TV
something. No. We're actually doing stuff together. And then like the full day is for them. That's another thing that I feel and even with my wife, we have this date night that we have to go out every week together. It gives us air to discuss things, and I feel like you need to schedule important things.
Yeah, like of course.
Even family, you can schedule family time, right?
Yeah,
you should. I feel not just you can, you should.
Yeah, just like. Yeah, especially like when you have such a busy schedule. All right, so you told us about your lifestyle and how you have your daily routine and everything, how you try to balance different stuff and schedule everything. How would you say that the youth or the youthful people can, like, what do you think is the best way for them to adopt a more successful type of lifestyle? Like people who are probably like single, and either they're just getting out of college or they're still in college or they're already started working.
So I don't have an answer to all the questions. What I have an answer to is things that I've been through.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was younger, I used to have this FOMO, fear of missing out, right? So I used to want to be everywhere with everybody, do everything, right? And when you're younger, you feel like this is something that is achievable. The more responsibilities you start having, the more you start to realize that it's not. So I feel like the first thing you need to start thinking about when you want to have um, a more fulfilling life is, what are my priorities? Because there is always something else to do, right? There are some people who are inviting you to tag along something additional to do. So learn to say no. Learn to say no to a lot of things so you can say yes to the things that you like.
So your
Because
priorities.
priorities is very important. Very, very, very important. And it's not like put a piece of paper and write them down.
Yeah.
But start thinking about it, start understanding it, start noticing when you are doing things that are not your priority. Because once you start noticing these things and then you do less of them, then it makes much more sense for you.
Okay. Just let me check something, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still rolling.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
The advice. So in terms of the
Yeah.
advice, yes, we're talking about priorities. It's very important. And then, excuse me.
you're excused. Do you want a tissue?
Hmm?
Do you want a tissue?
No, good.
Okay, but
Mm.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that is extremely important. But my question, in addition to that, is I've heard a lot of, successful
Mm.
people say that waking up early and spending time reading, for example, or doing this or doing that, like, in your opinion,
Mm.
what has worked for you? What has helped you be more disciplined and helped you achieve more in a day or feel more fulfilled in your day or more productive?
So
I'm guessing it's like the waking up early
yeah. So
or
these
spending time reading.
yes. So these things worked for me, but I don't think it's a must that they will work for everyone. But I would
course,
say
yeah.
that waking up early gives you more space to work on yourself, because that's the profound thing that you need to focus on, is
Yeah.
working on yourself before you do anything else.
Yeah.
Right? So for your mental health, whether you'd like to meditate, whether you'd like to go for a run, work out, go for a swim, go for a walk, read, all of these things, do them like before you do anything else, because then you feel more fulfilled, and then you can do the other things with what do you call it, with a clear mind.
Yeah.
You don't feel like somebody's robbing your time, or like is
Yeah.
pushing you to do stuff that you don't want to do, because
Yeah.
you've done what you want to do in the first part of the day. Now
So
you
now you have your time.
yes.
Yeah, like expendable hours, so to speak.
So whatever you do, you need to be very focused about why you're doing it, right? But the thing is, yes, you get out of your way a bit to help other people, because people will start grabbing your attention, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like if you're working with somebody or you're working for a company, they'll call you, they'll ask you to do stuff, they might ask you to stay in late, and like that's where I see many people who like go to the gym after work usually fail to go to the gym. Like either they go for a drink after work, or they have to stay late to finish something, whatever it is, or they get stuck in traffic. So that's why I feel like doing it early in the morning is the best thing. But I would say in terms of advice is priorities. Work on yourself first. Build for the future. Don't feel like you're obliged to participate in everything that happens. Learn to say no so you can say yes. I remember when I was younger, I used to go, even when I was married, I used to go with my friends every weekend. We'll go out, we'll sit somewhere, we'll talk, and it used to be the same topics over and over again. You'll talk about prices of apartments, what did you do in your job, how this guy messed up, whatever it is. And it was not useful to my goal, and it was not a priority, but still I did it because I wanted to participate, right? But I feel like if you stop And like at that point, I didn't go for vacations. Like I'll go back to my home country and all of that. Today, I keep getting invited to different countries, right, to participate in events. Like all expenses paid, just come, right? And like in the past year, I traveled to more countries than I did in the past 13 years within my career, right?
Yeah.
So learn to say no so you can say yes to better things.
That is pretty profound. So yeah, I just have a couple more questions I wanted to touch up on, like focus towards the youth. So this next one is, what's something people should stop worrying about more, like stop worrying about it, and then what's something they should actually might have to worry about more?
So
as someone who's younger.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Thank you.
I feel most of our misery as human beings comes from the clash between expectations and reality. And there is this illusion that we have in our mind that reality should be the way we want it to be. And that creates a lot of misery for people. You can hear lots of people complaining like, did you see what that guy did, or what the government is doing, or what this like this guy cut me off in the street, and all of these things. Like you feel like people waste a lot of energy and emotion complaining about things they can't control.
Yeah.
So what I think people should focus on is on themselves and what they can do by themselves. And what they should ignore is what is going outside. Everything else around you is environment. You can't change that.
Yeah.
You can learn to navigate through it, around it, right? But you shouldn't worry about changing other people. Just focus on making yourself the best person you can be. Like every morning, I wake up and I start thinking, how can I be a better father? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better boss? How can I be a better service provider? How can I be a better son? How can I be a better friend? Right? And I put a portion of my attention and effort every day to be better at all of these things. Like, what can I do to be better? So I feel like
this all goes on mentally, right? You're not like writing down. All right,
so in the beginning,
2% on the husband today.
No. Yeah, in the beginning, I used to write some things down. Like, how can I be a better husband? I used to think hard about it, right?
Yeah.
Or how can I be a better parent? The more you do it, the more natural it becomes to you. Practice, yes. So when I started having this question about being a better husband, right, I started thinking about maybe participating more at home. So if I used to go home, before I used to complain, like if I saw some dishes that need washing in the sink.
Yeah.
Now, or at that time, I started just going into the kitchen and just cleaning them.
Yeah.
Bit by bit, I started doing these things, and I saw like how they help the relationship. Instead of complaining about what the other person is doing, is seeing how can I help.
You are taking the initiative to actually fix something that you see.
Yeah, today is more profound. So today, when I feel my wife is not feeling good about something, I start talking to, how can I help you like be more fulfilled, right? Now the question is more profound. Like,
yeah, so it wasn't before like, how can I help you do the dishes? Now it's like, how can I help you be more fulfilled?
Yes. Yeah, so it's not about like being physically helping, but actually now I want to be there with you mentally on how you can tackle life, like what is troubling you. Yeah.
Okay.
Same happens with my kids. Like before I used to think about like, how can I be a better parent? Like I'll spend more time building Lego things together, or like playing stuff like that. Today I'm thinking about how can I mentally help them.
Yeah.
Right? Like now we have a really good relationship that they come and talk to me. They ask me about things, like they trust me when I push them, right?
Yeah.
That I know that it's not gonna break them. We're gonna go through that boundary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in summary, we should stop worrying about our environment. Stop worrying about other people, and stop complaining about that sort of thing. And we should worry more about how we can improve ourselves.
Yes. And it takes a lot of practice. It's very easy to say. So The example when you say that they didn't understand or they limited you, you were limited by them.
Yeah.
It's actually not me being limited by them. It's actually me not being a good enough salesperson.
Yeah, to make them understand the concept.
Exactly.
So
if you start thinking about...
so it's easy to complain about them and say, they just don't understand. But in reality, maybe it's actually something you can fix and make them understand.
Exactly. And unless you look at it in that light, then you wouldn't feel the need to become a better salesperson and learn new things.
Yeah, just shift your perspective.
Exactly.
Okay. I love that one. That was an amazing answer and question. So, what advice would you give to people fresh out of college or about to graduate? Like, what's one thing you could tell them that they should focus on? Or just anything. It could be anything. You could, like, don't buy cotton socks, or I don't know, anything.
I would say experience different things. Like, get started with building a system for your life, and start, like, if you can get a job even while working, while studying in the university, while getting your degree, go and do that. If you can even get free internship, go and do that.
Yeah.
Get exposed to different businesses.
I mean, even when I was in university, my first year of university, I grew up in Saudi. There wasn't a lot of opportunities. They don't have like the internships or the different like part-time jobs for young people. But here in the UAE, when I was in my first year of university, I decided that the first thing I wanted to do was get an internship during my summer. I tried to get it before while I was still studying, and I finally did through a friend who, that's actually when I went to N5 for the first time. My friend got me this internship that I was doing part-time while I was studying, and then 2 months later I went into I finished that year, and they actually gave me a full-time job there for the summer. And I was very thankful for that experience, because it actually, that was my first experience in work, like actually experiencing what it's like to be in an office. And it was a startup, and that's when I first came to N5. A little background story: N5 is a startup hub that Amro started his business at, and that's where I met him initially. So yeah, and it was very valuable for me.
Yeah, what I would say is it doesn't have to be that fancy. So I'll tell you a couple of jobs that I've taken since I started working. So when I was 12, I told you, 11, I started by drawing these things and selling them. And then I had a friend who had a father who worked as an accountant in an airlines. So he used to get free tickets to travel to wherever they wanted. So he used to travel to Bangkok. They'll bring shoes and stuff like that. We'll go sell them. And then I worked as a shoe salesman at a store.
Okay.
Then I sat in a grocery store. I was handling it all through the night.
All right.
I fixed computers. I made mixed CDs. I did private tutoring. I made these, these gypsum designs in the walls, in the ceilings. I worked for a while doing that. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be fancy.
Yeah, of course.
Any experience is very good experience. You start learning about the human nature, about the reality of life, about money, about managing time, about managing
sales.
Energy,
about sales.
All of these things are very important. See, this job with the gypsum thing, I used to wake up at 5. I used to finish work at 5 in the evening, 5 in the morning till 5 in the evening. I used to go back home and I couldn't feel my shoulders. It was very intensive physically, right? You'll spend with a sledgehammer, you'll spend most of your time just cracking the wall, right? It was very, very physically intensive. So I learned how to manage my energy at that point, because I was going to school, and I had friends that I wanted to also maintain a social life.
Yeah.
And I was doing this very physically challenging job. That's one thing. dealing with human nature. When I was selling shoes, I had many of the salespeople who were working there were much older than me. They were in their 30s. I was only 14 years old or 13 years old, right? So I saw what kind of attitude would get you nowhere in life, right? You learn these things and like how to avoid these things, these pitfalls, right?
Okay.
So whatever job you take, you will learn something new about it.
Yeah, definitely. At all my jobs, I've always taken something out of it. Like, even if it's not from technical, like, sort of skill that I learned. Of course, I did learn those technical skills, but apart from that, there's a lot of, like, sort of interesting things that you learn about people, about yourself, and about how different things can do different things for you. So yeah, those are all the questions I actually wanted to speak about. But one thing I thought of just now is, for me, I think sales is a very important skill to have, being able to sell. And I know that that's like a very centralized part of what you do, because you are the one in the beginning for years that was trying to sell your company and get people on board and get people to trust you and all that. So what do you have to say about that?
So sales is very important. There's a book about sales called "To Sell is Human." So yeah, like if you want to convince,
who's it by? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I remember maybe Steven Pinker. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll look it up and put it up here. So.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like really good books about sales. So when I started the business, I actually had no real experience selling to like a corporate customer.
Yeah.
Right. So I just went and went to Amazon, looked at the top 10 books about sales, and I bought them. And I spent the next 2 months reading them. And that actually helped me do all of the sales that I've done. Right? So I feel there's a lot of things that you can learn in books in addition to practical experiences. And selling is a very important skill, yes. I feel to have autonomy, you need to learn a couple of skills. One is how to save money and how to manage money, and then how to create money.
Yeah.
Right? So these are very important skills. How to manage and save money and how to create money.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you'll be able to start a business or have a stable life without learning these two skills. And creating money can be through trading, can be through sales, can be through different things, but you need to learn somehow how to sell. And selling is not just about selling goods, right? It's about ideas also. Like if I want to convince my son to do something, I have to sell him on the idea.
Yeah, of course.
So it takes a lot of skill if you don't want to force them or to like because you need to learn how to manage the situations when you don't have the upper hand. I feel like sales is a very important skill then, because when you have the upper hand, many people can like use force, or they can use their position or the whatever the advantage they have, right? But it's learning how to get out of situations when you don't have the advantage, to get your way when you don't have the advantage, is where sales skills are very important.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure about the details of the story, but I've read somewhere that there was this guy with a very high IQ who couldn't convince his teacher to change the time of his lecture because he couldn't travel to the university back then because he was he didn't have the money, he was
there was a
on welfare
issue.
And there was a transportation issue, and because he couldn't sell the idea, he ended up being maybe a bouncer or something. Like he's one of the guys who with the highest IQ in the world, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and I feel like selling people, like being able to communicate with people and selling them on your ideas and convincing them is a very important skill. There's a really good book about it called How to Win Friends and Influence People for Dale Carnegie. I feel like there are a couple of books that should be basic knowledge to everybody. I feel like they should teach them in school. I don't understand why they're not taught in school. These are the skills that could allow you to be more productive. Everybody should know the facts that are in these books, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, 7 Healthy Habits of Highly Effective People, The Law of Success, Think and Grow Rich. These are really, really important books. And like many of the self-help books that you read today are regurgitating the same facts that these books came up with maybe for the first time. Maybe they were using also knowledge from earlier books.
Okay. So you'd say sales is one of the most important skills to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So is there anything else you want to speak about? Because I think that's all I had in mind. Mm-hmm. But if there's anything else you want to add on top of that, targeted towards youth,
I'd say stay positive, stay curious. For me, I had to go through trauma to actually change my life. I feel it's very hard to turn lives around. So whenever you want to change your life, have that in mind. That it's very hard to change. So maybe you need to put all of your effort, put everything aside if you want to change your life, and put all of your effort into building a new system for your life, because it's very challenging. But once you have the tracks set, then life becomes much happier, much more fulfilling. You start experiencing life the right way. And another thing is that value time. I see lots of people who try to fill their days with activity, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that's the wrong attitude looking at your day or time.
Okay.
Right?
So what's the right way?
The right way is to utilize every minute that you have with the most important thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
It's not filling your days with activity.
So it's not like, oh, I'm bored, I'm just, what can we do?
Yeah.
It's more like, I really want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I have enough time.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I heard it on a podcast for Sam Harris, I think, and I found it very true. Right?
Yeah.
It's he says boredom is the lack of attention. So if you pay attention to everything that you do, life is very interesting. Even like focusing on your breath, it can be a very challenging, very interesting exercise, right? So most of the time, if you're feeling bored, it means you're not paying attention to life.
Yeah.
I feel you need to pay more attention maybe to what you want to do, how you feel, where do you want to go next. And if you put that care and attention into your life, definitely you'll get there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for all of your insight.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. This has been another edition of Confused.af. And again, my guest, Abu Hamaidan. And this is his hoodie, asafeer.com. 3asafeer.com. Can you buy these online?
No, you can't.
No? Okay. Well, thank you all for listening, and I hope you're all a little less confused.